when you're working with other people and they present differently from you. Okay, other individuals who are, you know, from different parts of the world. There's a lot of diversity going on. Who else is going to meet those people than you and I? And it's not a matter of them just passing through like people at the grocery store. We're going to be caring for these people over and over and over again. So it's important that you be sensitive to who they are and to what their needs are. We talk a lot about multiculturalism. Multiculturalism was recognized in Canada. In 1988, the Canadian Multiculturalism Law was passed declaring equal rights to all Canadian citizens, ensured Indigenous rights, identified both French and English as the official languages of Canada. Right? So if you are someplace and you request for somebody to speak to you in French, then you have that. You have that right. Your supportive care should never be less respectful for one client than it is for any other, for any reason. Okay? We can't just be kind to people who we can understand, to people whose culture is the same as ours, and then we just dismiss the others. We can't do that. We have to treat everybody just the same. Okay, we have to treat everybody with the same respect and dignity as you would the next person. All right. Now, in caring about culture, how other people will present differently from you, we're going to find out how culture influences attitudes and beliefs. So where you are from and the characteristics of the group, of the people that you are a part of, they're going to have their own practices, their own attitudes, and their own beliefs. And those things are going to influence or affect an individual's way of life. Now we have to understand that everybody has a culture. Some people have more than one culture. So your culture is not just based on the characteristics of the group of people where you're from. We can take on different cultures, okay? We go through different cultures. We drop some, we take some on. Like now that you're here, you are a culture of students studying for this personal support worker program. And when you're done, you're going to drop that culture. Then you're going to be a culture of practicing PSWs. If your son plays, let's say, hockey or basketball, and you're constantly driving your son or your daughter to hockey or basketball games, and you're carpooling with other parents whose children play hockey or basketball, you would be a part of a culture of hockey moms or a culture of basketball moms. If you buy a motorbike, you start to ride with other bikers. You're meeting with them, you're getting a helmet and, you're all riding together. You're now a part of a culture of bikers. Okay? So everyone has a culture, at least one, but some people will have more than one culture. And people in different cultures are going to behave differently based on the characteristics of the culture that they're from. Whether it is a culture that they were born into or a culture that they have taken on along the way. This chapter takes into account understanding the importance of taking care of a diverse group of people and acknowledging how a person's culture shapes their attitudes and their beliefs. Imagine you're born into a culture and you've been practicing that culture all your life. All your life. And now you have to care for this person. You're going to see their practice. You're going to see somebody's background needs to be muted. You're going to be seeing the practices that are actually going to become evident in the culture that they practice. They might believe in traditional medicine. They might not want to take synthetic medication. Okay, so you're going to see that in their attitude. You offer them medications from the doctor, and they might say, no, 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 I don't take those kinds of medicines. I like to brew my natural herbs. Okay, it's going to shape their attitude, it's going to shape their practices, it's going to shape their beliefs. Now, it's unfair to say to a person, you have lived your life all of that way for the last 50, 60 years, and now we want them to change that. Okay, so we're not here to change a person's culture. Right? You're not supposed to fit their care into your schedule. Okay, we're not there to change them. Okay, we're not going to change it to benefit us. Okay, we're going to get to know who they are. We're going to make sure that we're respecting who they are. Now, diversity is the state of different individuals and cultures coexisting. Okay, lots of people will, migrate and go to different countries, come to Canada, from all over the world. So you're going to be seeing a lot of differences in the different individuals and cultures existing. You go to the grocery store and you look around and you're seeing, multitude of different looking people. It's all a matter of diversity. So when you go to care for people in these facilities, bear in mind that you're going to see a lot of people that look differently from you, that talk differently from you, that dress differently from you, that have different textured hair from you, and you have to embrace everybody as their own individual. Respect them, okay, for their ethnicity, respect them for their gender, respect them for their age, respect them for whatever it is that they do to survive in life, respect them for their sexual orientation. We're not here to cast judgment or to see people as being different, inferior, or a misfit from us. You got to make sure that your care is accordingly. Okay? You treat everybody the same way, with the same level of respect, and you give them the same type of care. Right? Now it's for us to really dig deep within ourselves to make sure that we're respecting every person as a human being. And we're caring for those individuals.
At the end of the
like we're caring for everybody else. Now we talk a lot about ethnicity. Alright, ethnicity. This is also common in your NACC exam. Ethnicity and culture. And knowing the difference between the two. Ethnicity is sharing of a common history, the language, the geography, the religion, the identity of a group. Okay? From the same area, practice a similar religion. An ethnic group is not necessarily your nationality. Okay? So, let's say you were born in, I always use myself as an example. I was born in Jamaica. So my citizen by birth is Jamaican. Okay, so I moved to Canada, and my citizen by naturalization is Canadian. Alright? My ethnicity is Jamaican because my parents are Jamaican, and I'm used to the language. I'm used to the history of Jamaica. I'm used to things like common religions that are practiced, the food, all of that I'm used to. Okay, that is what I know. And so my ethnicity relates to what my parents are a part of. Okay, so my ethnicity is Jamaican. But now I've come to Canada and I have children who are born here. Their ethnicity is also Jamaican. Their ethnicity is also Jamaican. Okay, it relates to where your family came from, what is practiced in the home, the foods that we commonly make, the lingo or the language that we speak, commonly practiced in the home, is what is going to define your ethnicity. as compared to your culture. So let me give another example of ethnicity. Let's say you are, um, your parents are from China and they moved here, okay, when they were, you know, older, okay, but they were born in China, they grew up in China, they know the Chinese, they know the Chinese traditions, they know of the Chinese food, you know, wherever in China they're from, the language that they speak, okay, wherever they originated is going to relate to their ethnicity. But now that they come to Canada, they continue to practice their ethnicity, okay, based on what they were practicing from China. Their children that were born here, their ethnicity is Chinese, relating to where they're from, but their citizenship would be Canadian. So ethnicity and citizenship are totally two different things. Okay, your ethnicity relates to the practice of your parents and where they're from and what they do. And then your culture. These two are quite similar, okay? Culture is characteristics of a group of people, their values, their beliefs, and their habits, their behaviors. So culture ties into ethnicity, okay? People of the same ethnicity are going to be of a similar culture, passed on from one generation to the next. Okay, so their parents practiced it, and now we're going to be practicing the same. From one generation to the next, they hold on to those characteristics. So that's the culture. So for culture, it's characteristics of the group. And oftentimes we talk about culture, okay? We tend to relate it more to values and beliefs and habits, behaviors. Like musical traditions, those things don't change. Okay, and then based on what you practice, we're actually going to define your ethnicity. Culture is also what is practiced within a group. Therefore, we take on different cultures and we drop some along the way. As I explained before, whatever is the new group that you take on, you're now going to be a part of that culture. So let's say you connected with a group of people who like to do yoga. You're now a part of the culture of people who practice yoga, right? And you can be a part of that culture for as long as you practice yoga, and then you decide you don't want to do it anymore. You can drop that culture, and you can take on a new culture. Moving on to prejudice and discrimination. Now, a lot of times we tend to prejudge people in different cultures. We treat them differently. We don't care to know the culture. We don't care to understand the culture. And when you work with people, you're going to have to be more open than that because of the diversity. The expectation is that you're going to be working with a lot of people that are different. So if in your mind you're thinking that, why am I caring for these people, then you're in the wrong profession.
Hi guys.
Okay, because you're going to be having a lot of those people. So prejudice comes from prejudging.
I'm so big nose.
Attitudes, opinions toward a person based on
Ganyan
their
sana ang nose
membership
ko.
within a group. So we see a person who connects with somebody else. We see a person who declares to be a member of a group. We don't know them. But because of their membership within the group, we start to, in our minds, form a judgment. So that's the group that person is connected to. Those people are no good. Those people are, a little bit weird, and we start to prejudge them. We start to create in our minds an opinion of who those people are, just because you see them talking to somebody else in that group. All right? And that's not a fair way to think and to be. Okay, we learn in healthcare not to be judgmental because you never know a person's story. Now, prejudice comes a lot from society. Okay, society expects us to be or to act or to be a part of a certain way, okay? And then when that is not the case, society sees us as being different. Okay, society sees us as being a social disgrace, and that's because they prejudge us. And then when they act on those prejudgments or those prejudices, then it leads to discrimination. Right? So Charlotte's talking to this person from that group. That means that Charlotte is like them. Charlotte is one of them. I don't want to have anything to do with Charlotte. And then the discrimination sets in. So prejudice leads to discrimination. Discrimination is unjust or prejudicial treatment of others. Okay, we don't treat them right. We treat them differently. Different from how we would treat those people as we see as being norm of society. Then there is stereotype. It's a simple or exaggerated view of a group of people which is often untrue or unfair. Okay, so we are exposed to these stereotypes. We grew up hearing about them and we continue with them. And of course, they are unfounded because the stereotypes are incorrect. Like we might stereotype, about people who have blonde hair. That's a common stereotype, that people who have blonde hair are not smart, okay? Or we might have a stereotype that women are, weak on the battleground, okay? An exaggerated view, okay? A view that is not true, and it's an unfair view to have. The different types of prejudices. We have ageism. Okay, ageism is feelings of intolerance toward a person because of their age. And we have to look within ourselves to see if we are tapping in on these prejudices. Okay, are we guilty of these prejudices? Because a lot of times we are, and we don't really realize it. Okay, are you the type of person who, when you see an elderly person, you automatically, start to talk to them differently? You automatically start to think that, okay, they're a burden on society. You automatically start to talk loud because you think they're deaf. You say, oh, never mind them anyways, they're old. That kind of an attitude, that's ageism towards the elderly, okay? Not having the time to be patient with them, to teach them anything because they take a longer time to learn. I can't be bothered. They're always asking me this and they take so long to catch on. Being intolerant because of age, that's ageism. Check in with yourself as you work with the elderly. Okay, we can't be guilty of being in on this. Okay, we have to promote their dignity, make them feel good about themselves. Then there is sexism, feelings of intolerance because of gender. Okay, where we, have our feelings about one gender against the other, how we feel about men compared to how we feel about women. We feel that men can do certain jobs or women can do certain jobs or are better at certain jobs. Okay. Then there's homophobia, feelings of intolerance towards individuals who practice homosexuality or people who identify with the LGBTQ population. All right, so these are individuals who, have already cast or come to judgments on these individuals without even getting to know them. All right, there's no need for that. When we go into the place of work, it's not our business. If a person wants to be straight or gay, that's their life, that's their practice. And you don't go in and care for them based on how you might feel to be who they are. Okay, that has nothing to do with their character. Okay, so you go in and you be the most respectful and you care for everybody just the same way. Or a transgendered person, a person who does not identify with their sex at birth, we tend to have prejudices toward them. And there's what is called cultural conflict. You're going to be in conflict a lot with those that you take care of. Um, when there is a disagreement with another person, as you're taking care of the elderly, there's a lot of conflict going on. You want to bathe them, they don't want to be bathed. You want to get them up, they don't want to get up. You want to feed them, they don't want to feed. A lot of times they might constantly be saying no, 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 no. All right, so you're going to have to know how to deal with that type of conflict. You can also get into what is called cultural conflict, when you have two different people of different cultures having some type of a relationship, or in a group together, and one person feels a certain way about their culture. People usually feel that their culture is more important than the next person, and so they try to dictate to the other person what culture should be practiced or what is the most prominent culture. And there is cultural competence. Cultural competence, the ability to interact with others from different culture. Do you even want to know about a person's culture? Do you ask them anything about their culture? When we started this PSW course, there's the first chapter has to do with PSW foundations, where you do a project on another person's culture, and you look on their way of life, their practices, where they're from. We look on the foods that they eat, um, in order to understand and appreciate what another person's culture is. And this is really an interesting project because it opens you up to respecting. It opens you up to wanting to know more about a person's culture. I'll tell you a story. When I had moved one time, and my neighbors, I think they were from Pakistan, I think. I can't be sure, but it's in that region. And they had a baby. Came home with a brand new baby from the hospital. And as I stood at my window, just kind of looking around, I was new to the area. Keep your back down. And as I looked around, as they were coming home with this new baby, everybody stopped at the door and spun around, and I went in. Spun around and went in. And as I stood there, I just thought, how beautiful that was. And wish I knew what it meant. Now, the old me maybe would say, well, what's that about? What are they doing? But the fact that I became more culturally sensitive allowed me to appreciate what it meant to them to do that. All right? People should be free, to want to bow their heads 20 times, and it's their culture, that they not be judged about it. And, that they're allowed to appreciate their culture. You're going to work with a lot of people. You're going to work with some individuals who, their culture affects their religion. Okay, some people are going to want to hold on to their rosary. The minute they get washed and dressed, you got to make sure that they get that. That's important to them. Okay, people are going to, maybe you want to wash their hands or wash their faces or want to say a prayer. And they have that right. They have that right to practice their culture because it's important to them. So going back to cultural competence, okay, not being afraid to ask somebody, what does that mean? Tell me a little bit more about that part of your culture. How does that affect the care that you're receiving from us? Why people might decide that they want some things and not other things will relate to their culture. And then there's cultural safety, creating a safe space, communicating about one's culture, creating a safe space. You want people to feel comfortable in saying, I would like to get this done. How can it be a part of my care plan? Okay. And not feeling like I really want to ask, but I don't want to ask because I don't know what they're going to think, and they might think I'm weird. It's got to be a safe space. It's got to be a safe space. It's unfair for us to say, you can't do this after you've done it for so many years. And so Many times we will try to interject things of a person's care into their culture. Might not necessarily mean that we're going to do it for them. Family members, can come in and accommodate them with these practices. We're just trying to create the space for them. Now, culture affects the family and affects your beliefs, your behaviors, religion, healthcare practices, and communication. You're definitely going to see families play out certain types of behaviors based on their culture. Like the way the elders are respected, the way elders are being treated, elders and older people or younger people in the family taking care of the elders of the family. And that is the expectation. I've been already into homes, where everybody has a role to play in their grandpapa's health. Okay, that's the culture they practice, that everybody, come together and take care of this person who has been so instrumental, you know. So, one person would come home from school and make sure that grandpapa had supper by 4 o'clock. It was shared out and it was there. Another person made sure that their grandpapa's nails were cut. Another person made sure. So everybody had a role to play, right? And everybody was happy to play that role. It didn't seem like a chore. That's because of how it's done in their culture, and people try to continue that way. Now we're seeing a breakaway from how a lot of things are done based in, from how it was in those days, and we're actually seeing where, cultures are actually incorporating and taking on some new practices. Now, some types of family. Common on your NACC exam, we have a nuclear family. A nuclear family is also called a traditional family. So a traditional family is a mother and father and children or child. Okay, that's the nuclear, common on your NACC. Then we have a single parent family, where the head of the household does not have a partner. The head of the household is a single parent, so a single male or a single female with children. Also common in your NACC. And then we have a blended family. So a blended family is where a couple, so two people from two former relationships, come together with children from those relationships. Sometimes they may have children of their own or not, but they have blended both of those families from those two relationships together. All right, so now they're a blended family. And then we have a same-sex family, and this is where both partners are of the same gender. So 2 men or 2 women would be a same-sex family. Effects on culture, on religion. Okay, some people rely on religion for comfort during illness, and when they're going through tough times. And you will find that they might want to practice things that relate to the religion a little bit more orthodox. Some people might want to talk to a spiritual advisor, so they might request one. Please make sure that if such a request is made, that you pass the request on right away. All right, pass it on today. Okay, not tomorrow. That's very important. Some facilities will have their own spiritual clergy person that represents that facility. So once you call for, that person, then that person will be that represents the facility will make themselves available to that person if that person doesn't have one of their own that they can call. Now, always make sure that you are respecting a person's religion, regardless of how culture may affect their religion. Okay, don't put their religion down. Don't make it seem like, what they believe in is not important, but what you believe in is important. A lot of times people will do that. Try to convert your clients to change their religion beliefs to yours, okay, is not okay. It's not okay. Don't get into religion, don't get into what it should be. Okay, it's not a part of the care. We're going to go in and we're going to get care. Culture does affect communication. I can't stress enough how communication I can't stress enough how important communication is. That we're able to understand what people are telling us. We're able to understand that they're in pain. We're able to understand the message that they're sending to us. It's very important, that communication is clear. Sorry. Now, sometimes communication is not clear because they might speak another language that we don't speak. Sometimes we might have to call in the family. Sometimes we might have to call in the family to translate for us. Sometimes we might ask colleagues to translate for us. Sometimes we might even have to get a translator, somebody to come in because it's difficult to understand the person. And, we want to make sure that they're understanding us and we're understanding them. That's how we're going to make sure that we give the best care, So if we don't understand their language and they don't understand our language, then that just kills any type of communication. We won't be doing what they're asking. We won't be able to ask them how they're feeling. And that defeats the purpose of care because that's when we make mistakes.
Water my garden.
That's when we're not giving them the care that they should be getting because communication
She gonna
is not
send me
happening. All right, so if you find that you have a client that you're not understanding, if you want to make sure that you pass that on to your supervisor. Now, for some of us that are from other hemispheres, where English is not our mother tongue, we have to make sure that we go back to doing ESL, English as a second language, because in order to understand our clients and give good care to them, we have to understand the language. Okay, so if we're struggling
I'm gonna
with
go
the language,
my garden.
The Academy of Learning does
I just
have
skip recording
ESL
so
course,
I can
ESL
review
class,
later.
That you might want to look into.
With YouTube.
Or else if you get out there, it's going to be a little bit difficult and frustrating.
Just like this.
With you not understanding what people are telling you or not sure the right questions to ask in order to give the best care. Now, individuals are going to have, different body languages. There are some body languages that, are acceptable in some cultures and also not acceptable in other cultures. So what is body language? Body language is information sent through nonverbal communication. All right, so what is not said? Okay, you're looking at a person and seeing their expressions, seeing their gestures, their cues, their posture. They might not be standing straight, they might be slouched over. I was just reading something too that body language can also be, piercings and makeup and tattoos. Those can actually send a message too. Okay, touch is body language. Eye contact, it's body language, it's not verbal. Okay, so we're looking at things that are non-verbal. The space that you give a person around them, silence, all of these are body language. Now, a lot of times we're not comfortable with all of these things because of culture. Because in some cultures, some of these body languages are a big no-no, like touch. Touch conveys warmth. Okay, touch sends a message that I am here with you. Okay, but if the person doesn't like to be touched or the culture doesn't accept touch, then you can't touch a person. So you should always ask the person, can I touch you? Okay, over time you get to know, who you can touch. Okay, so you can convey that language. Eye contact is also another one. In some cultures, we don't make eye contact with maybe some members of the opposite sex. So if you're talking to a person who has practiced that in their language, you can't expect for that person to make eye contact with you because it won't happen. And there we go judging, oh, this person can't even look at me. I want you to look at me. when it's because of their culture, we're not going to get that one-on-one. It's important that we really get to know a little bit about these individuals that we're taking care of, okay? Understand who can be touched, understand who's going to make eye contact with you. Some people like their personal space, okay? The personal space is that space around a person. A lot of times people are kind of like way up in our faces, okay? It should be like a full arm's length. And some people will want more personal space than others. So if you're standing with somebody and you notice that they've backed away from you, it could be that you're in their personal space. Another body language is silence. Okay, and silence can mean so many different things. Okay, silence can give you time to think. Silence can mean consent. Silence can mean guilt. But a lot of times we're not comfortable with silence, okay? And there's nothing wrong with silence. There is a lot of presence. There is a lot of that is being said in silence, you know? So you have to then understand in what cultures is silence practiced? Is silence practiced in the culture that my client is from? Okay? And become familiar with the person not saying anything. Because silence is golden. We're just not comfortable with silence. We always feel like we have to say something, and we don't always have to say something. Sometimes we don't know the right thing to say, and we say the wrong thing, when it would have been better if we were just there and be silent. And then there is touch. As I said, be mindful of a person's culture and, accept if they don't want to be touched. Personal space area immediately around us or our bodies. Some people will need more space than others. Some people will need 2 feet or 3 feet, 60 centimeters or 90 centimeters. It's good to practice, at least 2 people space. That was something that we practiced during COVID, because COVID was airborne and we wanted to give people enough room away from us so that if we had COVID, but we wouldn't be passing it on to them. Support workers should aim to provide culturally sensitive care. Sorry. Get to know your clients. Okay, get to know about their culture. When you're caring for them, have that conversation. So, ask them, so tell me about your culture. Tell me about, where you're from and the culture that is practiced in that part of the world. Okay? It makes them feel acknowledged, makes them feel like they're important, like we want to know something about them. And remember that everybody has a culture or more than one culture. We can end a culture or exit a culture, and we can take on another one. People respond to cultural practices in different ways, and we cannot apply the tendency of a culture to all members of a group because not everyone will follow all of the practices. Some people will practice orthodoxly from A to Z, recognizing all the holidays and the food and the way of dressing. And then some people will practice some of it, and some people might not practice any. Okay, so we just have to, be open to accepting people, how they practice. We can't say, well, you don't practice like her or you don't sound like her. Okay, everybody is going to be practicing the way that they want to practice. All right. Any question on culture? All right. Okay, moving on to the next chapter. We'll do the questions. We'll do some questions when we get back. We're going to at least do 2 chapters today. All right, you're going to talk about managing stress. All right, so managing stress is chapter 8 in your ebook. In this chapter, we're going to look at stress and see how stress can affect all the dimensions of health. How stress can bring on physical problems and how physical problems can bring on stress. Looking at the signs of stress and common stressors and how people use defense mechanisms to cope with stress. Defense mechanisms are common in your NACC exam, right? So you should be able to identify some of them. Ways to cope with stress. We're going to talk about making your goals smart, because sometimes when we're stressed about certain things, we then have to make a plan as to how we're going to move past that stress. So we have to come up with goals. Now, a lot of times, our goals are not smart. That's why our goals are not accomplished. We have to make sure that goals are smart. It spells this acronym SMART, that they're specific and measurable and achievable and realistic and timely. And we're going to talk about stress reducing methods, that will help us in the workplace. All right, the key terms: acute stress. We talk about acute stress and chronic stress. Okay, we talk about eustress and stressor. So not a lot of key terms. This is actually a very easy chapter, a very short chapter. Deals with 4 key challenges support workers face in the workplace. What are the challenges that you're going to face when you go out there? Handling stress. Our jobs are so stressful. It is stressful physically because we're constantly lifting and turning and picking up. We're constantly doing those things. It's also stressful emotionally or mentally, having to take care of so many different people that present with complex medical issues, and also having to deal with their families too, having to deal with colleagues, having to deal with other members of the healthcare team. So other is how we manage your time, okay, as we're taking care of 6, 7, 8 people, and we have to make sure that what needs to be done gets done in the time that we're there, because we can't always all the time leave our work for somebody else coming on, because that person coming on is going to have their own work too, right? So how do we prioritize? How do we know what to do first? How do we manage our time? How do we start some tasks that are called rolling tasks? Okay, so you're going to somebody's into the community and you're not doing things one by one, but you start a task and that task can be left to be completed as you go to do another task. All right, so you want to be focused as you're managing your time. You want to plan well. You're going to be making decisions a lot. You're not going to be calling your supervisor for every little simple decision. Supervisors want to know that you can work a problem out. Okay, so how do I come to a decision based on what is happening? But you have to first make sure that it is a real problem, because a lot of times it's not a problem. Okay, so identifying that it is a problem is what is happening causing risk to the person? Is it causing risk to people around that person? Is there something that I can do about it? And how is it going to benefit the client, right? You ask yourself those questions, and when you can answer those questions, then that's a problem that you can solve. But there are times when it's not a solvable problem by you, and you have to be able to identify when to call your supervisor on these problems, all right? The supervisors don't want to know that you're calling them for everything. They want to know that, you can make some of those decisions too. When do I call my supervisor? When do I not call my supervisor? Right? Okay. Well, let me go to my condensed version of stress. Now, we all have stress in our lives. If there's a person that says, somebody told me one time that they never got stressed, and I thought that this was a real crazy person, because who does not get stressed? Everybody gets stressed. A lot of times we just don't handle our stress very well. So what is stress? It is a normal part of life that everyone experiences. It is the emotional, behavioral, or physical response to an event or situation that we are not comfortable or familiar with. So anytime we're presented with something that is different from the norm, it creates a stress response in us. Okay, and it affects us emotionally. Okay, we get really anxious about it, something like that. It affects us behaviorally, it affects us physically. Okay, we start to present differently than we would. Some people, will be very quiet. Some people will talk a lot about the stress. Some people will even get sick from the stress. We call it psychosomatic symptoms. Some people will get vomiting and diarrhea. Some people, their heart, they'll have palpitations where their heart rate will go up, their blood pressure go up. Some people feel a lump in their throat. Okay, some people will want to go to the bathroom. Some people will sweat. So we're going to be having all of these responses to a situation or to an event that we're not familiar with. Now, stress can have both a positive and a negative impact on us. It all depends on what is causing us the stress and for how long we're going to be stressed. Is it a stress that we can work on? Can we do something about the stress or not? Now, it having a positive or a negative impact on us will depend on the type of stress. We have what is called eustress, which is a healthy stress. Eustress is going to have a positive impact on us because, once we get past that stressful situation, then we're going to start to see the benefits of why we remain stressed. Like individuals who are going to school, are going to be stressed for that period of time. Okay, that's healthy stress. Okay, gives you a feeling of fulfillment. You're looking forward to that day when you'll be done and, you're wearing your scrubs and you're going to work and, you're a part of a profession. You've embarked on a career and all of what you're doing now paid off. Okay, you can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel in another 4 weeks from now or another 3 weeks from now as you write your exam and you pass. Right? So eustress is a healthy type of stress that gives us a feeling of fulfillment. Then we have acute stress and chronic stress. Anything that is acute is something that has come upon you suddenly. Okay, the expectation is that you're going to deal with it and you're going to recover from it. So acute stress would be stress that is of a short duration that has come upon you all of a sudden. Okay, so let's say, for example, you locked yourself out of the house or you locked your keys in the car. That is going to bring acute stress onto you. But soon you're going to be able to call maybe a tow truck company, or you're going to call somebody from home who can bring a key for you. Okay, so soon you won't be stressed about it. All right, that's acute stress. And then you have chronic stress. Anything that is chronic is ongoing. Okay, it's just going on and on and on and on. There's maybe no hope for getting past this stressful situation. Okay, so having let's say an illness like diabetes, where you're constantly struggling with your blood sugar. You maybe won't eat very well, so you like your pizza and you like your beers, and then after you eat, your blood sugar is going to go up really, really high. You're going to get sick, you're going to go to the hospital. Or let's say you're at work. Okay, the floor is already heavy. You'll have a lot of people who are incontinent of urine and stool, and a lot of people who are on bed rest. And people are constantly calling in, canceling their shift. Okay, that's going to cause chronic stress on you, because every other day you're having to pick up a load of somebody. Okay, that type of stress is going to cause you to get to a stage in your career where you're tired and you don't want to be bothered, you're burnt out. All right, so nothing is being done about it. You remain at the job. You keep coming day after day, and you're complaining about it, but you're not doing anything about it. So you're chronically stressed. Now we have what are called defense mechanisms, and I want you to make sure that you have a good understanding of defense mechanisms. And we tend to use these defense.
Miss Cherry?
Yeah.
May I interrupt you? Yeah, there's NF for the diabetic people, or they can eat anything?
No. Diabetics have to be on a special diet.
Oh, they have to be in special diet?
They have to be on a special diet. They have to eat.
Sorry, teacher. I'm leaving, okay?
Okay, Catherine.
Okay, thank you. See you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay,
have a good shift.
People who are diabetics have a condition where, if they overeat or they undereat, they can become quite unwell. Because their body might not be producing any insulin or not enough insulin. Now we know that you need insulin. That's going to take the sugar from the food to your cells. Okay, so diabetics have to be on a special diet. They have to be eating with a certain number of calories.
Almost 1 hour.
Eating certain types of foods, and they're going to make sure that
I'm gonna finish at 10.
every day.
I'm gonna finish at 10.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Help me.
Now going back to the defense mechanisms, we all use defense mechanisms. You use them.
Stress can lead to burnout.
We use them to make us feel better.
Defense mechanism.
So what do we do? There are strategies that we use in situations that make us feel uncomfortable. Okay, and when we use them, it makes us feel better.
That's nation. Oh, you laugh. Mama.
Because we all use them.
Bye bye to
But you have to be able to
No, it's not
identify
finished. 10 o'clock
that
finished.
your client is using
bye bye
mechanism.
teacher.
And talk with your supervisor about this, and they can decide if they want to approach a client, in regard to the defense mechanisms that they use. They're there for us to use, but there's sometimes we have to make changes in order to see a difference. So here I just made a list of some of these defense mechanisms. They do come in another chapter. The first defense mechanism is denial.
Denial.
Refusing to accept the situation that is a reality. We tend to see denial in some people who are diabetics. For example, let's say a teenage young man. All right, a teenager who is being diagnosed with diabetes refuses to accept the reality that he or she is diabetic and is going to affect how they eat and what they eat.
Anak mosquito lang eh.
And decides not to make any changes and continues to live their lifestyle. So every Friday evening, still basically their bodies to have beer and tea. Nothing has changed. When so much has changed. Usually, people get really sick. They end up being in the hospital, sugar right through the roof. Is when you will actually see them acknowledge that okay, I have to do differently. But usually, their behavior is one where nothing has changed.
Okay?
Makes them feel better.
Bye for you tomorrow.
Almost like they don't have to deal with the reality of being a diabetic. And another defense mechanism is displacement. Displacement is where we take out our feelings on somebody else. It's usually when we're angry. Okay? So let's say you had a really rough day at work. You're a supervisor who really gave it to you today at work. And now you're home. And you take out your feelings on who is at home. So you snap at everybody at home. You don't have the patience with nobody at home. You maybe slam the doors and maybe you know, just
passive,
even pat
aggressive,
the dog, maybe pat the dog or
indirectly
something like that.
expressing
You're
anger.
displacing your anger feelings of what you went through today onto something else. And this is, you know, we're always like that with people that are close to us or with people that we love. We tend to take it out on those people. And another defense
Rationalization,
mechanism is fantasizing.
regression,
Doing
going
do
back
this
to
one all the
behavior
time.
from the
You know,
early
avoid reality
stage.
and retreat to a safe place. How many of us stop to think about winning the lottery or
Indirectly
something like that?
expressing
Or stopping to
anger.
think that, you know, we're this great singer,
Projection,
okay, and
attributing,
fantasize about, you
attributing
know,
one's
singing
to someone
in
else.
front of all of these people,
Projection.
these large crowds, right? These fantasizing. And there is passive aggressive. Passive aggressive is where you're indirectly expressing your anger. Indirectly. Instead of coming out and saying that, you know, I'm really upset and this is how I'm feeling, we kind of acted out indirectly. A good example of passive aggressive is, let's say, you know, you are,
Unwanted thoughts from
let's say you're doing a group project and you went ahead and you started to work on a particular topic on the group project. And you had maybe hinted to somebody that that's what you were going to do. And you thought it was okay. And now everybody has now come together to share what they have on the project. And when somebody else delivers what you delivered, when it comes to your turn, somebody who's already delivered what you delivered. Okay, so you're really upset about it. You're really upset about it because, you know, you had mentioned that this was